WisconsinEye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
WisconsinEye coverage of the 2014 elections continues with an interview with Mr. Tom Denow of Oshkosh. He's a Republican running in the 6th Congressional District. Tom, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me.
And I just have a programming note. WisconsinEye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. Tom, you're a first-time candidate, so let's start out with this. Give us the short version of your bio, please.
Of my bio? Yes. I'm born and raised in Oshkosh all my life. I've lived there with exception for about 10 years, but I graduated high school in Oshkosh. After high school, I went for 1 year at UW Oshkosh, and then I realized what I wanted to do was get more involved with mechanical and teaching mechanical things, so I went to UW Stout, and I graduated from UW Stout with a degree in industrial education with a concentration in engineering and transportation.
Okay.
And I ended up getting a job working for Mercury Marine. At first I did a little bit of student teaching, substitute teaching at the high school level, and I thought I wanted to teach at a little higher level than that as far as in technical college, and I went and got more experience. I got a job working at Mercury Marine as a technician working for the racing division, which was in Oshkosh at the time. And while I was there during the 80s, I got an offer or an opportunity I should say, to get an interview with Chrysler Corporation, which was a zone office they had in Milwaukee. So I took that opportunity. Wasn't really looking for a different job at the time, but I did take that opportunity, and I did get hired as a district manager. And I traveled the northern parts of Wisconsin and the UP, calling on dealerships, helping them with all different situations. That was kind of a starting area because they were smaller dealerships in that area.
Sure.
Then I got transferred in 1990 to North Carolina. So
taking you away from your
they
hometown
took me
of
away,
Oshkosh.
and I didn't want to move because I love this area. I love the 6th District area. I'm born and raised there, but I knew that I had to make a move to try to get a little more exposure out in the world, and it was a good opportunity because it was moving me up within the company. So I was moved to Asheville, North Carolina. I had to get a map out to see where it was, and boy, you couldn't probably be too much luckier to get a place than Asheville, North Carolina to get moved to. It was a beautiful place in the hills of the Smoky Mountains, and I mean, it was very nice opportunity. Shortly after that, I did get promoted and was a district manager in Charlotte, where our zone office at the time was out of Charlotte.
Okay. But something brought you back to Wisconsin.
Yes. Well, Chrysler wasn't doing real well.
Okay.
I mean, they had some issues and they were cutting back, and the opportunities for advancement were going away. Also, when I was down there, it was 10 years I was down there, and I missed the area. I came back. I took vacations at least 5 times a year, and all my vacation time I came back to Wisconsin.
I see.
I came back to the 6th District. I like going to Road America to go to the races over there. I love, my family and friends are all from Oshkosh area, so yeah, I missed it. So all of a sudden, with what was happening with the company, I decided, now I got a lot of experience, I should maybe try to look at getting a job teaching. So I started looking for a teaching job, and I was lucky enough to find a job that was open at Marine Park Tech College in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
And you started there?
So I started there. It was engine technology. The former instructor was retiring, and I got that job as an instructor.
Are you still teaching?
No, I'm not. I'm retired at this time.
Throughout this whole interesting career, finding out how things work and taking them apart, did you follow politics? I mean, have you
Yes,
run? Okay. Have you run for anything before?
I have never run for anything before. No.
Not any local office?
No, and I have
now you
thought...
want to be in the U.S. House, excuse me.
Yes, no, I have thought about it. And I mean, even when I was in North Carolina, I followed politics down there. But one of the things, my job at the time had a lot of travel, and I really didn't have the opportunity to do that because it was very hard for me to get involved with that.
So you're no longer teaching? You're no longer teaching.
Correct.
And then Congressman Tom Petri announces he's going to retire.
Correct.
And what drew you into the race to replace Congressman Petri?
One of the things, when Thomas Petri was in Neenah and was stating that he was going to retire, I went up there and listened to him, and one of the things I was thinking about it, you know, because he was retiring. I thought it's an open seat, and he mentioned some of the committees that he worked on: transportation and infrastructure, and
highways.
Education and workforce. And those were the two committees that he worked with. And then he also mentioned that we need more people stepping up to get involved with politics. And I have a very strong background in education and workforce, because I've trained people to get jobs for local companies like Kohler, Mercury Marine, John Deere, other companies. Those are ones in the district. There's other companies like Briggs & Stratton and Harley Davidson also that were involved with taking students, and people who've graduated out of this program were involved with.
Okay.
So I do have that connection, and I felt that I have a practical experience that I could bring to these committees, plus transportation and infrastructure. I worked with Chrysler Corporation for all these years, and I have a very good background. I worked with hundreds of dealerships that I went into, and there were small dealerships and large mega dealerships. Ones, well, like you got Bergstrom's here. One of the dealers was Bruton Smith, who owns Charlotte Motor Speedway, that I called on. And there's other little ma and pa stores. So you get to see the aspects of all sizes of dealerships and the way that they are run, and there's different ways and methods that all these people
On your
have.
website, you say that you're not a career politician, and this is your first run for office.
Yes, it is.
In the August 12th primary, you're up against 2 state senators and 1 state representative. Not holding any elected office, is that going to help you?
I don't see where it necessarily can hurt.
Okay.
I look at David Bratt, and I always think from Wisconsin, thinking of his name as David Bratt, but it's David Bratt.
He's the one that beat House Majority Leader Eric Cantor on June 10th.
And he came out from nowhere. And he was a teacher as well.
Okay.
The one big hurdle is I really don't have much backing and funding behind me.
Right.
So, and I have very little name recognition.
Well, what about the people who say, not having any experience in politics, having built his career on your own but not in politics, that you don't know how it works, you don't know how to raise money, you don't know how to cut a deal, things like that?
Well, the thing I see is, I think I've got innovative ideas and things that I can bring to Congress that a lot of people do not have, other career politicians.
Okay.
You know, there's different areas. Infrastructure for once, and I guess maybe I'll bring up, I got a tax that I've thought of, one of my ideas, and I know being a Republican, some people do not want to listen to anything about taxes.
That's the T word.
But, yep, it's the T word. But with infrastructure, the one thing is there has been no raise in the gas tax or diesel tax since the early 90s. We have an infrastructure problem that we have to bring money in to the infrastructure.
Yes.
The current things they're looking at is privatizing the roads and having tolls. And the other thing is to put mileage on your vehicles, have a system where they can record the mileage.
You would tell the state how many miles you
and
drove
you're
in a
be
year,
taxed.
and then you'd pay a surtax based on a small surtax.
Right. I'm not for taking the gas tax and raising it. I do not like, I'm very fiscal conservative. I do not want to raise taxes. I'd like to see any way we can cut taxes, or if we can fund it without raising taxes, that's fine. But one thing is, I have what I'd call reverse indexing. So inverse indexing is what I meant to say. Is say gas today is at
367 is what I paid.
Okay,
this morning.
367. I think it was like 370 or 370 the other day, or 380. When it's at 380, okay, if the price goes down, say 5 cents, let's add a penny on.
Oh,
If it goes down another 5 cents, let's add another penny on. Let's put that in the trust fund.
So
the thing is, you're not going to feel it. It's going to take money that's going to go in there. So all of a sudden, if you've got the trucking industry and all these other industries are not going to feel that as much, and personally people won't feel it.
what if you and I are paying $380 in a week? Would it go?
Well, then it would have to. You'd
would
have
it go
to take.
down?
No, then you're going to have a problem where you're not going to have the tax coming in.
Okay.
So we have to do other things for our energy in order to reduce that cost from where it's at.
I see.
So but that's just one.
So that's how you would fund highways and bridges?
That is one of the things that I would like to look at. I think that would be. I'm just trying to think of innovative ways to bring these ideas in to try to fund some of the things that we need to have funded.
Okay. Well, you're well aware as a candidate for Congress on some of the other issues that are out there. Let's talk about Social Security going broke.
Okay.
Medicare's going broke. How would you fix those?
Right. Well, there's complex problems. One thing with Social Security, I don't want to touch anything that current people are going to have as far as what, if you're currently under Social Security, it would not affect you. If you're pretty much 55, you're close to retirement, I don't think we need to do anything that's going to change that. But we got to look out further out is what we're going to have a problem
For those
with.
under 55.
Right, the ones under 55. So there's only, you got two things you can do. You can cut costs or you can raise more revenue.
Yes.
So the thing is, one of the things is if we're going to have to cut one thing is you can raise that limit of, okay, they can't start collecting Social Security till a later age.
Till they're older, yes.
Right, and that might be one thing that I'd look at, and that's maybe one of the possibilities.
Okay.
The other thing is if we have to, if they're not going to have as much money that they're putting in, maybe we can give the workers that are on Social Security an option to be able, just like a 401k that you have at work. Not that you're using it as a 401k, but in Social Security, I can opt to put a little more in. When you're in companies, when I worked for Chrysler, I had 401ks, and each time I could get a raise, I'd put a little more in my 401k. Okay. So if I put that more in, that's going to help me out with my retirement. Same thing is with Social Security system. The younger people, if they want to rely, you still have IRAs they can rely on, but if they feel they need that Social Security income, add a little more to it.
Okay. Well, what about the healthcare system for those that are over 65?
Healthcare, okay, healthcare, we do have a lot of issues that we'd have to deal with that. One of the things in Social Security and healthcare is we got to look at ways to reduce fraud. Make sure that people are getting the proper care and we don't have any abuses in the system. The other thing is to have a fair audit system to make sure that that there is no fraud happening. I think it's a very difficult thing. We got to look at many things like, those reductions, try to maybe gain productivity as well for some of the things that are going on, and anything we can do to reduce. Part of the problem is getting more costs that are coming in. Our health care, maybe look a little more at malpractice and tort reform. That affects everything in the healthcare as well, as far as increasing costs.
Well, healthcare,
so I mean, there's a lot of aspects that we have to look at.
A huge part of the healthcare debate is the Affordable Care Act. When President Obama says it's a victory for 7 million or 8 million more Americans to have obtained health care through the Affordable Care Act, has it been a success?
I don't feel it's a success. I've talked to a lot of people who are impacted by it. I have friends of all classes that I hang out with and get a lot of information. There's some of them going, oh, this is great, my costs have went down. And then there's others that are saying, you know, my costs, I got to pay an extra $100 a month. So what I dislike about it is that the government's deciding to pick who the winners and losers are with health care. So I am not a fan of Obamacare at all.
Would you go to Washington to get rid of it?
If it came up and there was a possibility of getting rid of it, I would support that, but we need to have something in place for like pre-existing conditions. And
what about young people?
And the young people.
Getting it by living with their parents till through age 26. And no cap on benefits. Are those three good things that resulted from the Affordable Care Act?
I would say those are three of the things that I would agree with.
Okay.
One of the examples I use, an analogy, is if you have an old car that is really past being repaired and you want to do anything and you want to throw it away, but you just bought brand new wheels and tires for it, you might want to take the wheels and tires off of it and keep those and get rid of the rest of it.
And junk the rest of it.
So we just got to look at what's working, and within the Republican Party, we have to have other solutions, not just say we're getting rid of it and leave people hanging.
Okay, another issue that's very big nationally, and it played a role in Eric Kaner's defeat, 10 or 11 million people who are in this country illegally. Should they have a path to citizenship?
I do not believe in amnesty. Okay. I am a second-generation immigrant. My grandparents came over from Switzerland. So, I mean, they came, they had 8 children in the family, and they did not have a lot when they, coming through the Depression and that, things were rough. But it's amazing how well all of the people and my aunts and uncles have done. You know, so I mean, I understand we need the opportunity for people to, but just to give blanket amnesty, I think sends the wrong message.
Should we send them back to the country of origin? We
need to look at each individual situation. There's too many here to just say that we're going to deport and have these people gone. What we need to do is, did they just stay here because only thing they did was outlast their visas? If that's it and they're a productive person for our society and they are helping out, I think we should maybe look at extending those visas and let them find a way that they can get into the system to become citizens.
If they've been productive and haven't been charged with a crime, under any circumstances, should they be allowed to be U.S. citizens?
I don't think we should just automatically give them citizenship, because there's people that are waiting in line to get automatic citizenships. They need to get it. They need to get into that line. Okay. Why should somebody who is here illegally have precedence over somebody who's already trying to become a citizen legally? I think it sends a wrong message.
A new wrinkle in this debate are the thousands of children as young as 4 that are crossing the border now. What are your thoughts on what should happen to them?
It's very, very difficult. The one thing, and I mean, if we had secure borders, we could try to keep these things from happening. The other thing is secure borders. We need to secure our borders even more. On the way down here, I see a sign about the heroin problem. The majority of the heroin problem that we have is from coming across the borders from Mexico. So that's the first thing. Now, that doesn't solve the problem of these children that we have coming here. I think what we need to do is find a way to get them back to their home countries.
Okay.
And we need, their home countries have to step up. We have to work with that, because if we just keep them here, we're sending the wrong message, and they're going to just keep sending more.
Okay. On another issue, the U.S. Court of Appeals yesterday pretty much set up a U.S. Supreme Court test on the issue of same-sex marriage. It's an issue in Wisconsin. Your reaction to Judge Crabb's ruling on same-sex marriage in Wisconsin?
I think that the people voted that they did not want to have same-sex marriage. I feel that the people should be, I don't agree with overturning what the people have voted for.
Understand. Thank you. Some Democratic leaders in Washington are pushing for a constitutional amendment that would overturn the Citizens United ruling. What are your thoughts on campaign finance? Because I'm going to venture to guess you're probably not going to be the best funded of the 4 Republicans in the primary?
You definitely got that right. I will accept donations.
I understand.
But no, I do not have the recognition in that. But I don't think, I'm not worried. Again, going to the David Brat situation. Look, he, $5.5 million compared to $200,000. Now, $200,000 is about $199,000 more than I have in the campaign. But
thank you for your honesty.
But but I don't.
So money's
really,
not.
I don't have a. I don't. I think that the American people. That shows the American people are smart enough to know the difference when this money is trying to influence them.
So you're optimistic about your ability to run on ideas, recognizing that you're going to be perhaps the least funded.
Right. I'm being optimistic.
Okay.
Yes.
So you don't want to overturn the Citizens. You don't see any reason to overturn Citizens United.
I do not. I think that the only thing I'd like to see is when there's money coming from a source that we know what the source is.
I see. Okay.
So when
question on energy policy, the Keystone Pipeline.
Okay.
Do you support it?
Oh, that one of my main reasons for getting involved with the politics is energy. I've worked with energy. I taught classes in fuels and emissions. Things like the Keystone Pipeline, it needs to be done. The reason it's not being done is totally political. It has the CO in that. What's going to happen is they're going to build a pipeline. We're going to send this stuff to China. We have our refineries, our methods that we have in this country are some of the best and the cleanest ways for making energy. If we don't make it, they're going to make it somewhere else, and they're going to use it, and it's going to be dirtier. So for the environmental impact, it's also terrible because it's not going to do a thing for the environment by not, I shouldn't say a thing, but it's very little impact that it's going to have. I think we're going to have more negative impact by not building the pipeline, and we got jobs. We got jobs, we can get money these jobs, people are going to pay taxes, it's going to help our economy. So we definitely, to me, that's a very upsetting thing that has not been done.
What about the fuel standard that says eventually, and you can correct me on how long, vehicles have got to get, is it 54 or 55 miles per gallon?
Yeah, okay.
Is that achievable as someone who
taught
vehicle engines?
The thing that I found that's interesting is what they did is Obama administration, they changed the part of the way that they tried to make it achievable is they changed the way that they're going to do the testing so it's easier to get it. So it's playing, they're playing a dice game, or they're playing games with the rules to make them look like they're the wonderful guys that are taking care of the environment. The Republican Party needs to get a better handle on showing that we are not against the environment. The Republicans, we're made to look like we're the boogeyman's against environmental aspects. And it's not the truth. I mean, the Nixon administration started the EPA.
That's true. Well, as somebody who studied engines, you've studied then emissions. How real of a problem is climate change, Tom?
Climate change. Whenever I hear climate change, I always like to think, change the word to weather change.
Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, whenever you say something, is the weather changing? Yes,
right.
The climate is changing. The weather is changing. Now, what you have to come down to is what the main thing is it man-made? Is man have an influence on it? Now, okay, if I'm out in a boat and I throw a cigarette butt out, am I polluting? Okay.
The cigarette's out.
Yeah, I'm probably polluting the air as I have the cigarette. I don't smoke, but if you're smoking, you're polluting the air, and you throw it in there, you're polluting the water. The thing is the degree. How much are you causing a problem? And I think that's where even the experts are going to disagree at the degree of what it is. But the other thing is, we got other things we can do to try. There are things called carbon sinks. There are carbon scrubbers. There is technology. The more trees. Why? I never hear anyone say, let's have a plan to plant more trees and do this, because what happens is trees take in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. So there are things that can be done. I mean, I'm for the environment.
What about the president's new carbon standards? Have you studied that enough to have a position?
Yes, I think that he's overreaching.
Overreaching.
And here it's doing it by an executive order. He's got currently we have some of these. I see the people that are supporting him have a monetary interest in green energy. Mm-hmm. So they are, it's nice to say, oh, you're for the environment, but they're ones that are making money off the environment because their investments are in green energy. Okay. Now, we should have green energy, all forms of energy, we should look at and use all of them, but it's got to be done in a practical and an efficient manner.
Let's talk about some international issues. What lessons do you think the United States has learned from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan?
I think it's hard to have a simple answer to that complex question, obviously, but I think that we have to watch when we and how we get involved. I think that we have to look at everything. We can't state what. The other thing that the current administration I see is setting a timeline. We're going to get out, we're going to do this. I think that sends the wrong message, because look at what's happening right now. We said, oh, we're getting out, and now you got ISIS and that starting to take over. And
which makes me ask you this question. Would you support our 300 advisors going back into Iraq?
I believe we need something to get the people, because if things start getting worse and they start taking over, if someone ends up getting a nuclear weapon, we're in deep trouble. Those are hard decisions. I mean, the thing is, I'm not going to make these decisions on my own. That's the decision Congress has to make.
Yes.
So I would have you have to look at all aspects and determine. To just say yes, no at this time.
But if you're elected, you'd be part of the debate over issues like, was it fair to exchange 5 Taliban terrorists from the prison in Cuba for 1 soldier?
Right, and that should have been a debate. The problem is it wasn't a debate because the president automatically made the decision. Right now, Bergdahl has not been interviewed yet, so we don't know his side of the story.
Right. He is still being treated.
Right, he's still being treated. So we've got a lot of conjecture of what's happening. I think it'll be interesting to see what his story is before I come up to any conclusion.
Well, I've asked you about a bunch of issues, and we're almost out of time. Let me ask you, is there any issue that plays a key role in your campaign that I haven't asked about, sir?
The energy, you asked the energy one, government waste and spending. Okay. That's another aspect.
You talked about that with healthcare, waste and spending.
I mean, we have the IRS, and we have the Veterans Administration. We've got these issues, the EPA. A lot of these organizations, if you're involved in industry, they have different process controls in order to cut waste and make things more streamlined. Okay. I don't see these government organizations using some of these tools in order to streamline their processes and cut their costs.
Would you do away with some of those cabinet agencies like energy and any others?
At this time, I would have to look into them, maybe cut back. I think they have to be made more effective.
Okay. And then finally, it's a 4-way primary on August 12th. Right. I want to give you a chance to highlight any differences between you and your other 3 opponents, sir.
Okay, well, I haven't been a politician. Some people may find that a little more refreshing. I'm not extremely wealthy either. I'm not a millionaire. I don't envy people who are wealthy. I was brought up to appreciate people for when they work for things and when they achieve things that they deserve. They've done that, and you should appreciate it. It bothers me when I see someone getting to the point where they kind of get an envious aspect of people who have things. I think we should just try to enjoy the fact that, you know, if people want to achieve more and do that, they have that right. I am from the area of the 6th District. I love the 6th District, its people. I spend my time there. I know people who work in that area. I feel that's another reason that made me step up, is because being in Oshkosh, it's the heart of the district. Before Tom Petri was there, we had Bill Steiger.
Yes.
That was way back in this, and he was from Oshkosh. And I just would like to see what I can do for all of the different companies and the people. If we can grow our economy in these companies in the 6th District, and it's a very big manufacturing area.
It is. It's one of the top in the nation.
Right. And we can grow that and do things to increase our economy. It's just going to benefit everybody from our district.
Thank you so much. Tom Denow of Oshkosh is a Republican running in the 6th Congressional District. The primary is August 12th. Tom, thanks for coming in and talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Thank you.